Welcome back, Knucklehead. I'm Lupine Fiasco. This is Daily Fab Gameplay, and today I will be reporting on my ProQuest Week 4 experience for the ProQuest I played at Final Cut TCG on May 4th, 2024. Final Cut is my local game store. It is a 5-minute walk away from my house. It is fantastic. It is the best LGS I've ever been to. Sivan and Coleman are two fantastic guys, super helpful, super supportive of the TCG community, and especially for Flesh and Blood. Fab in Sacramento has had kind of a rocky road with turnover at other LGSs, really turning very good play experiences and event experiences into bad ones. Certain stores have gone in and out of Fab support. Final Cut has always been rock solid, rock steady, and everyone really appreciates Sivan and Coleman for running such clean, tight, organized events. And this ProQuest was no different. They did a fantastic job. Prize support for Top 8 was great. Every player got participation packs. A $30 entry fee is about as low as it could have been. Really just fantastic. And I'm really, really thankful to them for being able to put this on. And to LSS for giving them the event. Overall, we had 27 players at the store. I did make top 8. I did not go any further than that. My teammate Austin managed to take the entire event with Victor. He is a traitor to the Kayo community. I will say that. Austin's a really great guy, but the Kayo Cabal cannot forgive him for this transgression. He kept his gold foil. He opened Tectoplasma Pistol. Really great pull, great hit. Super happy for him, super proud. This is his second real win of the season, and he's going to Amsterdam. So good luck to him, and good luck to all of Team Metal Fab Token that is joining him. Up on the screen here, you can see the meta breakdown for the event. These are the 27 heroes that were played over a 5-round Swiss, followed by 3 rounds of top 8. This is your top 8. We had 2 KOs with a
40%
conversion rate, a Bravo, a Levia, and a Prism, all with 100% top 8 conversion, and Azalea, who had 50% top 8 conversion, Dorinthia with 50% top 8 conversion, and finally our winning Victor with a 33% top 8 conversion. I was 6th seed in top 8. I did play against Austin in that first round of top 8. He knocked me out after what was really not much of a tight game, which I will get into. Definitely different from my Kayo versus Victor experience. Going into the breakdown of my games, keep in mind that this is the second day in which Savage, Sash, and Run Roughshod are legal. Also, Strength Rules All, I don't play that card, but in general, Armory Deck KO was legal for this ProQuest. I don't know how much it impacted my results, honestly. I am of the opinion that we do keep Fiendal Spring Tunic in the list, and in any matchup where you play Cast Bones, you also play Tunic. And for me, that was half of my games. Sash in the other half of the games did feel good, but none of them were short enough that I really felt like Tunic would not have also been good. I missed Tunic in every game where I had Sash. This is not to say that Sash is a bad card. Sash is busted and leads to some very broken turn cycles. I think the card is a lock for KO as long as it is legal or KO is legal. But I don't think it is the end-all be-all that other content creators or posters on Discord or X really claim it to be. But enough preamble, let me give you what you came here for, the breakdown of my games. Round 1 paired me against a Vynnset, and this was a loss. I have very little Vynnset experience, and it showed in this game. I won the die roll and chose to go first, which I do believe is correct. Vynnset really relies on setting up those rune chants and getting a card into Arsenal. So if I do nothing on turn 1 besides maybe make a Might and Arsenal a card, Vynnset is already behind because she only gets 3 cards to play out her turn 1 and she doesn't have a rune chant. I boarded in my Null Rune gloves for this matchup and boarded out Apex Bonebreaker, but I don't know if that is necessary when I am going first. So my experience with that decision comes from Phi, where you would play Snapdragon Scalers if you won the die roll and got to go first, but if you had to go second, you would play Tide Flippers. And the idea was you wanted to be able to stop Vynnset from making a second rune chant with Scepter of Pain. If she pitched to Scepter, you just pitch a card AB1, and Vynnset doesn't get that extra rune chant. Not having Snapdragons limits your offensive options a bit, but Tide Flippers is still going to get you there on a double finisher turn because it can affect Salt the Wound, Lava Burst, or Tenacity. With Kayo, there is such a functional difference between Null Rune Gloves and Apex Bonebreaker that I don't even know if Null Rune is correct when you go second, much less when you go first. I never pitched to Arcane Barrier. I could have found myself in a late game position where every turn Vynnset is banishing a card from hand and then attacking with Flail of Agony, and I need to pitch to Arcane Barrier to live, but that wasn't the case in this game, and I did miss the 3 to 5 points of value from my Bonebreaker. So that was potentially relevant loss of value, but the real game loser for me was making a very greedy block with Fleshbag. My Vynnset had a Quicken that I had given her with Swing Big. She attacked with a Runegate card, had 1 card left in hand, and I talked myself into believing that it might be Read the Runes. She had no resources floating, no rune chants, nothing in Banish with Runegate, and my concern was it's going to be Read the Runes. I had a Command and Conquer in Arsenal with a Might on the field, and I had a Blood Rush Bellow in hand that I wanted to get into my arsenal to set up for 5-card Blood Rush with Agility and Savage Sash. So I use the Flesh Bag, I block this Runegate, banish Vynnset's card, she arsenals it, throw the CNC for 7, get some blocks out of Vynnset, arsenal my Blood Rush, make my Agility, I'm all set up. Vynnset plays Shadow Puppetry from Arsenal. So that was the card that I hit with the Flesh Bag, and that sets up this massive turn for her. Shadow Puppetry into Widespread Ruin with, I think, 5 or 6 rune chants on top of it. So takes 6 arcane damage, takes 7 from the Widespread Ruin. Vynnset hits a Phantom Banshee red off the top of her deck with a Shadow Puppetry banish. Plays a Funeral Moon to make a rune chant. Plays Revel in Rune Blood, and then Phantom Banshee. So that's 12 more damage I need to block from hand. I still fire off a 3-card Blood Rush with Agility, but it isn't enough damage anymore. I am 2 damage short ultimately of killing her, and if I were to have had those 2 extra cards, I win the game easily. And that's all because I didn't have the Flesh Bag to block out on the big turn. I took a weird greedy line because I didn't really know what Vynnset was trying to do or how she was going to set up. So this was a loss for me, which put me in the 0-1 bracket, heading into round 2 against Azalea. I wasn't feeling particularly great sitting down against an Azalea, being in the 0-1 bracket, knowing that losing this would disqualify me from top 8 contention. As I learned last week, I don't like Azalea. Hard to play against. I do think the matchup is about 50-50 between Azalea and Kayo, but Azalea has all of the decision-making power. Kayo has no on-hits. Kayo does a bunch of damage. All Azalea has are on-hits, and depending on which on-hits they are, Kayo either does or doesn't get a turn. So in this matchup, Azalea is entirely proactive, Kayo is entirely reactive, and a lot of how Kayo does in the matchup depends on, frankly, the number of red in the ledgers that an Azalea plays. If it's 1 or 2, Kayo probably wins that game. If it's 3, 4, or 5, Kayo's going to have a really hard time putting anything together. So I sit down across from my Azalea, we roll the dice, I lose, and I'm put going second. And I did win this game, frankly off the back of an Azalea low roll. No dominate on turn 1, so I was able to completely block out on turn 1 and make an agility. Azalea only played 1 red in the ledger, and that is between red in the ledger just drawn from deck or flipped from Azalea effect, Knock the Death Whistle, and Codex of Frailty. There was just the one. Inertia was very rarely relevant. For the most part, I was getting my wind-up value, or I was playing out all of the cards from my hand, and I was able to put a 21 damage Savage Sash Blood Rush Bellow turn together to threaten lethal. That didn't kill Azalea. The game did go on for another turn or 2 after that, but it was the fact that Azalea had to start blocking before I did that really put her on the back foot and made it so that she could never take tempo back. Now, of course, I was blocking throughout the course of the game. I honestly played a very patient game that might not have worked if my Azalea had drawn better, if she had had another red in the ledger, or if she had had more inertia more often, then maybe I don't get to just block out. She did send an 11 power undominated arrow that I just put 3 cards and armor in front of to be able to arsenal a Blood Rush Bellow that stuck around for a couple turns before I was able to put that 21 damage turn together. So it was that patient game that paid off, and in another situation I don't think it does. But what was really important about being able to threaten Azalea with lethal damage first is that she had to start blocking. I made the choice to start blocking, but she had to do it. And that's usually how aggro mirrors go. The winner is the one who is threatening lethal first. It's just that generally Azalea is not in that position. She's doing something relevant on turn 1, and my Azalea, unfortunately for her, just wasn't able to put that big turn 1 dominate together. And the game kind of spiraled from there. She had very strong turn cycles, but none of them were disruptive in the way she needed them to be. Sash did perform very well, but I don't know if in this situation it was better than Tunic. I would assume yes, Tunic does have the unfortunate quality in this matchup of usually just sitting on 3 counters for a while, either because I have the red in the ledger effect when I would otherwise have go again, or because I have to block so aggressively to stay alive or prevent on-hits that I can't take advantage of that extra resource on my turn. So Sash being 2 points of block rather than 1, and being worth at least 2 or even 3 resources on one specific turn is a lot more relevant than Tunic. I don't know if I would have won this game without Sash, but I do know that I won it with Sash, and Sash was very good. It really shined in this matchup. So beating the Azalea put me 1-1 heading into round 3, which was the Kayo Mirror. This was a win. I did win the die roll. I did go second, and that kind of decided the game. The Kayo Mirror is a really hard one to win if you go first. The onus is either on you to high roll or your opponent to low roll. But if both players are drawing and playing evenly, the Kayo that goes second is going to win the vast majority of the time. I never played a Blood Rush Bellow. My opponent did play 2, but they were on the same turn and was only 2 chain links wide. So my opponent sent 4-card 18, which is good, but was not able to really use Sash on that turn. They didn't break it, and they didn't need to. They could not have gotten more value. They just had a bunch of blues. So 18 damage was a lot, but I could do some blocking, keep a little tempo, still send. It was either a Bear Fangs or a Swing Big on my turn. It's really unfortunate for them. The double Blood Rush is usually unfortunate, but especially so in this case. My opponent was usually short a few resources, so they were skipping Arsenal to present damage on their turn, which I think was the right call, but again, just more or less set them up for failure. I had a few clunky CNCs and send packings because they didn't have an Arsenal, but that just gives me a little more freedom to block and play the overall value game rather than the offensive value game. I did get much better Sash value. Again, did not line up with Blood Rush, but I did get a 22 damage 5-card hand between Pulping, Claw, Wild Ride. So mini Blood Rush Bellow to compensate for not playing an actual one. And eventually did take the win with a Pulping that did hit its draw discard, and my opponent was at 1. We talked after the game if they were on Reckless Swing, because I did feel like that was the one out they had. I was at 3 life, but I was really banking on Pulping taking the win, and if Pulping gets blocked by the Reckless from Arsenal, I think I lose that game. I was sitting at 2, maybe 1, definitely not very high. And sorry, I was at 3. I would have been at 1 after a Reckless Swing, and would have been in a really bad position to win after that. So lucky on my part, my opponent was not on the Reckless Swing. But really the game still very tight for having been on the play. I think that's a result of not drawing that Blood Rush, but I did get much better Sash value than my opponent. Being 2-1 sent me into round 4 against Victor, a different Victor, not Austin. I did win this game. I lost the die roll, had to go first, but aside from that, just had fantastic luck all game. I won or tied every clash. Victor never got gold, never got that bonus card draw. I was getting those resources, but more than that, I was winning the draw discard lottery. I played very greedy multiple times. 2 times over the game, I either had a Cast Bones in hand or knew because of the clash that I was going to draw a Cast Bones. Both times I played the Wild Ride, or in another case played Bear Fangs with Agility, and in both cases kept the Cast Bones. And when my turn is Wild Ride for 7 go again, Mandible Claw, Cast Bones, set an Arsenal, that's just insane value. There's no way I can lose that game. The safer play, of course, would have been to overpitch for some of these, make sure I don't have the Cast Bones in hand, but I am missing out on a lot of value if I do that. So I made the conscious decision to take these risks, and they really, really paid off. So multiple Cast Bones that were all but guaranteed to hit because I already had a Might from Kayo's discard effect. I played multiple Blood Rush Bellows. The second Blood Rush lined up with a Cast Bones. So just your typical Kayo high roll. I played Tunic in this matchup. I felt great about it not being Sash. I believe I got 3 Tunic activations over the course of the game, every one for a Mandible Claw. So if Tunic is giving me 9 value over the course of 9 turns, the game even continues after that, and Tunic blocks 1. If Tunic is getting 10 value over the course of the game, that's the value you get from having a stronger Blood Rush turn, right? I feel great about Tunic in these longer, grindier matchups where I am playing Cast Bones. Now, my opponent did make a mistake. They started the game with Crown of Providence instead of Balance of Justice, really highlighting to me, yeah, Balance is a cracked card. That card is so strong, so pushed. But as I told them after the game, really, you did nothing wrong. You lost your clashes, which is not your fault, and I high rolled so hard, and that put me 3-1. I felt like I might have been locked for top 8 at this point. 2 3-2s were going to make it, and while I had a loss in round 1, my other loss would have been in round 5. Not sure how tiebreakers work. Someone can tell me. There's an article about it. I haven't read it. But the safer play, of course, would have been to just win my round 5. So being 3-1, I proceed to round 5 against a Bravo. And I did win this game. Barely. I won the die roll, chose to go second, got insane tempo early. I was getting good draws, I was blocking well, I was using Tunic as soon as it was available, and I lost tempo when the luck from my previous round started to catch up to me. I took a Stars Truck for 5, played a Bear Fangs with a card in hand, drew and discarded a Blood Rush Bellow, and that was followed by Wild Ride that drew discarded Cast Bones, and a Pulping that drew discarded Cast Bones. I missed 5 points of value over the course of those draw discards, plus the lost value from not having power cards, and at one point just took massive intellect penalty because of that Wild Ride. Lose and go again. So I went from being up 10 life to being down to being even, and eventually Bravo and I were both on 1 life, having to make these weird blocks where I get to send a swing big and they have to block for 9, and they pitch for Anthos for 4, and I have to give 2 cards. And eventually I was able to keep 3 cards in hand with a card in arsenal, so I can play my Blood Rush Bellow, draw 2 cards, and get to send a 13 damage Blood Rush, Claw for 5, Runner for 8. And that did get me the win, but oh boy was it tight. It went really a 180 from the start of the game to the end of the game. I was incredible tempo, up so much life, really feeling like I can't miss, and then it all just came crashing down, and that's brute life, right? That's the variance. For every game you have where you are drawing, discarding, and you're keeping your cast bones and you're setting up these huge turns, you get the other side of it where you lose your 66% chance to have a real turn. Or you play your Pulping and I got 2 misses left in my deck, and as long as I don't miss, I win the game, and there's a Blood Rush. But I did get there. 4-1 at the end of Swiss put me as 6th seed. I was the last 4-1 to make it in, all based on that round 1 loss. And that put me against Austin as the 3rd seed. He was on Victor. You already know how this game went. This was a loss. As the lower seed, I was chosen to go first, which is bad news. I was able to throw a Pulping, at least leak 3 damage, and set up that might. But from there, the game just spiraled. Part of it is that lost tempo from going first. But the bigger factor is I could not win a clash to save my life. Austin blocked with 3 Test of Strengths, and I lost all 3 of them. He blocked with 2 Trounces, and I lost both of them. Thankfully, one of those Trounces came at the same time as a Test of Strength, so he only got to draw 1 card, but made 2 gold off the back of the Test and Trounce, and won that Trounce with a Golden Sun, so got to make a 3rd gold as well. It was really just horrendous. I held a flesh bag in the face of a very obvious pummel because I felt like my hand was okay for getting pummeled. Maybe Austin was bluffing me and had a sink below or a command and conquer, something that he was going to arsenal. So I felt good about holding the flesh bag. I did get pummeled. The problem was I never found another opportunity to get more than the flesh bag's 2 points of value. There was never a time where I could intimidate something from Austin's hand and have it matter. And that pummel being played rather than sitting in arsenal did allow Austin to arsenal a Golden Sun, then play the Golden Sun, then arsenal another pummel, then play that pummel. So it did spiral from him not having to clog his arsenal with a pummel. We talked about it after the game, and he agreed that that was the time. I missed that time to use Fleshbag, but he also understood where I was coming from, and he had said that he had lost a game at one point in a calling because he made a similar decision. He made the opposite decision. I'm going to use the Fleshbag, even though I can afford to get pummeled, and then didn't have the Fleshbag later when it mattered. The other side of this, of course, is that you Fleshbag the pummel, they arsenal the pummel, and now they have a pummel. And they have so much armor and their cards all block so well, it is unlikely that unless we can set up a big Blood Rush or Cast Bones turn that we're going to be able to CNC or send packing the pummel away. So now they just have it, and we know they have it, but knowing they have a pummel does not mean that they won't just pummel you. So losing the clashes hurt, the Fleshbag hurt. Really, I just got outvalued. I did play a Cast Bones and a Blood Rush, but they came too late. Earlier they would have mattered, but by the time I was able to get those out, I was already so far behind that Austin could afford to just take a little more damage. It means cracking him with an overpowered Golden Sun or a dominated Macho Grande. The really embarrassing thing is because he's winning so many clashes, he drew more cards than I did over the course of the game. Between Blood Rush and draw discard effects, it was really, really bad. His deck is built for it. We talked afterwards. My feeling was Kayo is very favored. I think he agrees that Kayo is favored, but with some tweaks to the deck, he made it a much more even matchup. And the clashes really is what it came down to. Interestingly, watching the top 4 game, Austin against his opponent, Dorinthia, Austin lost all 3 tested strengths to a warrior. 2 of them off the back of clashing with a miss from the top, and the third from both players revealing Command and Conquer. And I'm just watching the game like, where was this? I needed this. I could have been here if you had just lost all those clashes. But that is the Victor matchup, right? Kayo is favored until Victor wins clashes, and then Victor just outvalues Kayo. Kayo can't keep up with Victor drawing cards and playing a test of strength for 7 value. So that ended my journey through top 8. I did get my Rainbow Foil Betsy. Unfortunately, I was not lucky enough to get a Kasai. Overall impressions, I gotta stop losing in round 1, right? I can submarine my way into top 8. I can go 4-1. Problem is, I'm gonna end up the lower seed. And being the lower seed in top 8 is a huge disadvantage. So I gotta stop doing it. I do it constantly, right? I lose round 1 more than any other round, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because I'm still warming up and maybe my head isn't in the game yet, or maybe it's that I am more likely to run into a dark horse hero that I don't have the reps against. In this case, it was Vynnset, that I believe I could have won that game if I had more insight into what Vynnset does and where the Fleshbag is going to be most effective, or if I can afford to make the greedy play and run Bonebreaker instead of Nullrune Gloves. But I noticed this over all of my ProQuest and RTNs, top 8 or no, I'm losing round 1 a lot. So I gotta figure out how to tighten that up, because being the lower seed is a massive, massive disadvantage. Not that I would have won my Victor game if I had gone second, but I would have been much better positioned to do so. After that, my biggest impression is really one that I need to introspect on, really something I need to think about. When I first started top 8ing tier 2 events, I felt like that was it. I don't need to go any further than this. I got my prize support, which, to be fair, at the time was Cold Foil Heroes. There's a significant difference in feel goods between a Cold Foil Hero and a Rainbow Foil Hero, especially when you have your Rainbow Foil Hero and know that there's a higher rarity Marvel version available to people who are better at opening packs than you are, or who have more money to spend. Really, it is cool that there are hero marvels available in packs. It also feels terrible as someone who does consistently top 8 events that I now have worse prize support. So just selfishly, bring back the cold foil heroes. Alright, put different marvels in packs, that's cool too. I was top 8 for someone who had won their fair share of armories. Top 8ing a tier 2 event was like, I made it, I'm validated. This is a bigger event, it's a bigger pool of players, and if I am competing with the best of them, I'm doing it, right? I am good at flesh and blood. And I had shared this feeling with a buddy of mine who shall remain nameless, and they had the opposite reaction. They were also consistently top 8 events. They'd been top 8 events for a while, these tier 2 events, but they weren't going higher than that. And they were so disappointed and annoyed and unsatisfied with it. And I just didn't get it. To me, I'm like, you got your hero, you got your prize support, probably ELO positive, you got your validation, what's the issue? And their thing was, I'm consistently top 8, but I'm not going any higher, and I feel like I should be, and I don't know what's wrong, and I feel bad that I feel bad. And now I get it, because I share all of those feelings. 2 out of 3 tier 2 events I'm top 8ing, and I have made it farther than that. I've top 4'd, I've top 2'd. On this channel, you've watched me open 2 black envelopes because I was able to split in the finals. But more often than not, I'm getting knocked out in top 8. And the guys I'm losing to are really good players. It doesn't feel like I'm getting cheated or unlucky, or somehow they're doing something that I wasn't expecting, or hey, it was a Vynnset, and I don't know what Vynnset does. It's like losing to Victor, or I'm losing to Azalea. Like, I know what these heroes do. I know how to win these games. But I'm not doing it, and that just feels like somehow I am impotent in being able to change the result. Like, get my Talishar reps, get my in-person reps, and it just isn't paying off when it needs to. And that feels disappointing. And then I feel bad that I feel bad, because I remember being on the other side of it and not being able to top 8 and feeling like, oh, I'm so close. And finally getting there and feeling so proud. And I just think, what happened to that guy? You know? What happened to that little pup kit fiasco, little kit party, who was so excited to win his cold foil Uzuri, and now walking away with Rainbow Betsy, like, could have been a plasma pistol. But that is my own cross to bear. That is my own issue to work through. And maybe, we put a little more effort in. We adhere to the time-honored tradition, the wisdom from the ages of get good. But that is the end of my ProQuest season. It's been a blast. Overall, top 8 at 2 events. Went 4-2, ELO positive in a third one. Just barely didn't make the cut. Objectively, a very satisfying result. Subjectively, as I've said, could have been better. So what's next on the horizon? A month and a half until US Nats in Minneapolis. I will be there. The next month and a half will be learning, practicing Kayo, learning the sash lines, determining when I should be using sash, when I should be using tunic, if I should be using tunic at all. Is strength rules all good? Do I need to put Gambler's Gloves back in? Does the deck need to change at all? Or is it just perfect? These are all things I'll learn over the next month. As soon as Part the Mist Veil hits, I am drafting, right? That is not something I've had to care about before. I'll do some drafts with my locals, our Saturday night armories, turn into draft while we're all excited to open the new cards and play with them, but yeah, I could do that socially. But now I need to care about draft, and that's like, oh god, alright, time to prep. So I'll be figuring out how to put some draft videos together for the channel, Hopefully some people find that helpful. I personally don't find it as compelling as Classic Constructed, but at least it's something new for all of you. So expect that at the end of the month. Until then, just your regularly scheduled daily fab gameplay. We'll be kicking it with Kayo, maybe working in a little Phi here and there, who knows, but primarily Kayo. And that is it for me. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, be sure to take that like button to Pound Town. My comments are always open for any questions or feedback. Again, if you have not already done so, please consider a YouTube subscription. It's free, it helps me out, but no matter what you do, catch me back here tomorrow for more daily fab gameplay. And until then, take care.